Okay, just 3 brief comments, because really it is Friday evening and we should all go somewhere else. First, Jacek's comment on building trust and agonizing about Western guilt. I probably didn't make myself clear enough in the opening statement. I live in a country where every day I listen that America and Israel are responsible for everything bad that happened, that people lose jobs, that the country is Turkey. People lose jobs, someone missed the bus. Of course, it's because of the Americans and the conspiracy and everything. I'm there as a researcher asking questions, and people then ask me, why do you ask so many questions? Imagine someone comes to your country and asks so many questions. What is your agenda? Okay? And I usually respond, listen, if someone comes to Slovakia, they find us on a map and they find a way there, and ask questions about our country, we are happy. We serve them drinks, we talk to them, okay? So I have to explain this. I don't have an agenda every day. But at the same time, we really have to acknowledge that we are not perceived as the most beautiful, as the best people in the Middle East, and not only in the Middle East. And there is a legitimate reason for that. We do not have to cry over it. We have to try to see how to acknowledge this, how to be aware of this when we are doing the foreign policy. Related to this, someone earlier mentioned the role, I think it was Miroslav Lajčák, the role of freshly transformed states. This is another thing that I see. If you talk to someone from the East, be it Europe or the Middle East, and you happen to have a French passport, and you happen to have a Czech passport, these are two different things. Because if you have the Czech passport, people know that your country has passed not only through the painful process of reforms, but also through a much more painful process of being bossed around by experts who might come with good intentions, but do not know a single thing about your country, but they know the best how you should change it. So this is one of the things that we should be able to use in the EU foreign policy. We hear in a lot of speeches of politicians, especially from Central and Eastern Europe, how we have this transformation know-how and how we should keep spreading it and everything, but in fact it just stays on the paper. And you do not have many cooperations, or as much as you could have, cooperation between old member state and new member state. I mean, look who's sitting here. It's all East. How many cooperation projects you have between an Eastern European organization and Western European organization working on democratization of something or someone? Yeah, not so many. This is a problem. This has to be changed. Second thing, the audit. Of course it's difficult, but life is difficult, yeah? No, I will continue, of course. Was the 2004 enlargement difficult? Yes, it was. And we did it. Unfortunately, with Cyprus being taken in as well. Yeah.
Profit from the absence of Greeks in the room. Yes.
I was already called also a Turkish agent, so I mean, I don't care. What I think is that you are able to find something that is a priority of the European Union, and you are able to measure if things were done towards this priority or against this priority. Yes? It is not that difficult. Imagine that you have all these, I mean, one of the major EU's problems is compartmentalization. That EU wants to be everywhere, and even in the areas that are a priority, there are 20 different initiatives. And then the Commission or some other agency, they carry out this initiative, and then they publish their own self-evaluation. We are wonderful, we continue to be a relevant player in the Black Sea. Haha, when the EU announced the Black Sea synergy, Turkey and Russia were laughing out loud. And then, I mean, when you really read these annual self-evaluation reports of these small partial initiatives, it really is fun. Do it sometimes. It's much better in certain instances than to watch Jon Stewart and Daily Show. But coming back to the point, take, for example, we know that we need to increase people-to-people contacts with Balkans and the East. Is it possible to measure if we did increase students that we brought in? Is it possible to measure if we did simplify the visa procedure? Is it possible to measure if we did or did not do something following the priority of successfully leading the accession negotiations with Turkey? These are all measurable things. Of course, what needs to happen first is the prioritization, but I think that pretty much exists. Can be strengthened, of course, but these audits, I mean, our own work is actually doing the audit. Yes, all our papers that we are writing, those are little audits. I think ECFR is starting now something like a foreign policy audit of member states. Yeah, but the thing is that the EU itself has to put all the little partial lovely initiatives under one roof, on one table, and check the bills. What it gave, what it lost. It seems complicated, it seems difficult, and of course many people in the EU will not want it, but is it necessary? Yes, it is. So if it's necessary, we have to do it. Third thing, our colleague, more colleagues were speaking basically about the confidence of the Turkish foreign policy. This is very interesting thing. What is EU foreign policy? Very entertaining, right? I mean, not much. But the EU is attractive. It is not attractive because of its foreign policy, but because of its domestic policy. That despite all the problems that we mentioned, and we could be here all night to mention EU's problems, it is an attractive place to live. People risk their lives to swim into the EU. They do not risk their lives to swim to, I don't want to offend other countries, so I will just not say anything. Okay, people try to get in because the quality of life in the EU really is much better than in most places in the world. And it feels very good to have the EU passport. Yes, yes. But this is not happening because of our foreign policy, but because of our domestic policy. And a very interesting thing that started happening in Turkey is that foreign policy started to become source of the pride. How important Turkey is, how a big regional power, how a big global power, etc., etc. But reforms at home are slowing down for many reasons, and EU is co-responsible for this. So again, I believe that if we were doing these little audits or a big audit, we might make or pave a clearer way forward.